Have you ever let your personal beliefs affect your job? What if it cost you everything? Jasmine Martinez never imagined that one night at work would change her career forever. At just 26, she had worked her way up from casual dining to one of Manhattan's most prestigious five-star restaurants. Her dedication and hard work had earned her a respected position, and she took pride in providing top-tier service to the city's elite. But one evening, everything changed. As she prepared for her shift, her manager assigned her to table 12, a VIP guest. Jasmine nodded confidently, unaware that this was no ordinary customer. When she approached the table, she froze in shock. Sitting before her was none other than Donald Trump, surrounded by business associates. In that moment, her personal beliefs clashed with her professional duties, setting the stage for a decision that would put her entire career at risk. As the evening rush began, Jasmine moved through the elegant dining room with practiced ease. The dim lighting, soft music, and murmured conversations created the perfect atmosphere for Manhattan's elite. She had handled high-profile guests before, but when Sarah, the head waitress, approached her with a meaningful look, Jasmine knew this was different. "Table 12 is yours," Sarah said. "VIP guest." Jasmine straightened her uniform and made her way across the floor, prepared to deliver the five-star service she was known for. But as she reached the table, her heart stopped. Sitting before her was Donald Trump, engaged in conversation with his business associates. For a moment she stood frozen, her mind racing. She had spent years criticizing his policies, debating his actions online, and now, here he was, right in front of her, a battle waged within her. She had been trained to remain professional, no matter the guest. But all she could feel was a surge of frustration bubbling to the surface. Instead of the warm, welcoming greeting her restaurant was known for, her voice came out cold and clipped. "Good evening. Welcome to L'Etoile," she said, barely making eye contact. As the evening progressed, her disdain seeped into her service. She poured water with an almost dismissive flick of the wrist. When taking orders, she barely acknowledged the guests, her pen scratching against the notepad with forced indifference. Small mistakes started piling up: delayed service, forgotten requests, even bringing the wrong appetizer twice, something she had never done in her 3 years of fine dining. At one point, she set a plate down with such abruptness that one of Trump's associates raised an eyebrow. "Is everything all right, miss?" one of them finally asked, sensing the tension. Jasmine forced a tight smile. "Perfect," she replied with artificial sweetness. "Just perfect." But in her determination to make a statement, she failed to realize the consequences that were about to unfold. As the night went on, the tension at table 12 became impossible to ignore. Other diners glanced over, sensing the unusual atmosphere. The waitstaff exchanged uneasy looks, whispering among themselves. L'Etoile was known for its flawless service, yet Jasmine's behavior stood out like a sore thumb. She moved stiffly, her responses curt, her usual grace replaced with barely concealed disdain. Even regular customers, familiar with her professionalism, began to take notice. Jasmine, however, saw this as a silent protest, a way to stand her ground. She believed she was making a statement, refusing to cater to someone she so deeply opposed. But what she failed to realize was that she wasn't just making a statement, she was making a mistake. A big one. By the time the evening ended, the damage was done. Several guests had voiced their discomfort, and Trump's table had left multiple comment cards describing her poor attitude. As Jasmine left the restaurant that night, she felt a twisted sense of satisfaction, believing she had stood up for her beliefs. But that feeling wouldn't last long. The next morning, as she arrived at work, she was immediately called into the staff room. Inside, Sarah stood with her arms crossed, and beside her was Mr. Thompson, the restaurant's general manager. Their expressions were grim. Sit down, Jasmine, Mr. Thompson said, his tone leaving no room for argument. Confused but trying to appear calm, she took a seat. What's this about? She asked, though deep down she already knew. Mr. Thompson placed several comment cards on the table. Your behavior last night was completely unacceptable. Multiple guests and staff members reported it. But more importantly, he paused, his eyes locked onto hers. It was noticed by the owner of this restaurant. Jasmine blinked. The owner? She repeated, her stomach twisting. Sarah sighed. Yes, Jasmine. Donald Trump has owned L'Etoile for the past 15 years. The words hit like a freight train. The room seemed to spin as she realized the gravity of what she had done. She hadn't just been rude to a high-profile guest. She had disrespected the owner of the very restaurant that had given her the opportunity to grow in her career. You let your personal beliefs interfere with your professionalism, Mr. Thompson continued. And now, you'll have to face the consequences. Her heart pounded as she waited for the inevitable words. You're suspended for 2 weeks without pay, he stated firmly. And when you return, you'll be moved to lunch service. No more dinner shifts. A lump formed in Jasmine's throat. Dinner service was where the best tips were. Losing that position meant losing a significant portion of her income and her reputation. She had spent years building her standing in fine dining, and in a single night, she had thrown it away. As she sat in stunned silence, the weight of her mistake settled over her. This wasn't the triumphant protest she had imagined. It was a costly lesson in professionalism. Jasmine moved through the staff room in a daze, her hands shaking as she emptied her locker. The weight of her suspension pressed down on her, each item she packed feeling like a reminder of her failure. She had spent years building her reputation in fine dining, only to throw it away in one impulsive night. Just as she reached for her last belonging, she noticed an envelope sitting neatly on the shelf. Her name was written on the front in bold, unmistakable handwriting. With trembling fingers, she opened it and unfolded the letter inside. As her eyes scanned the words, her breath caught in her throat. Miss Martinez, I was disappointed by your service last night, not because of your political views, but because you chose to compromise your professionalism to express them. L'Etoile has always hired based on merit, not politics. Your previous record shows excellence. Don't let personal beliefs tarnish that. Jasmine's fingers tightened around the paper as the realization sank in. She had let her emotions override her work ethic, allowing personal opinions to dictate her actions in a professional setting. She had convinced herself that she was making a statement, but all she had done was prove her inability to separate personal feelings from her job. Over the next 2 weeks, as she sat at home without work, she reflected deeply on her actions. She had nearly lost a career she loved over a moment of pride. True professionalism, she realized, wasn't about agreeing with every customer. It was about providing the same level of service to everyone, regardless of personal beliefs. It wasn't about who the guest was. It was about who she was as a professional. By the time her suspension ended, she knew she had a choice to make: return with a new mindset, or walk away from everything she had worked for. When Jasmine returned to L'Etoile after her suspension, she walked through the doors with a new perspective. Gone was the resentment, the desire to make a statement. Instead, she was determined to prove that she had learned from her mistakes. She approached her work with renewed focus, treating every guest with the same level of respect and professionalism, no matter who they were. It wasn't about agreeing with them. It was about doing her job with excellence. As weeks passed, her dedication didn't go unnoticed. Despite being moved to lunch service, she gave it her all, ensuring that every guest received the 5-star experience the restaurant was known for. Her consistency, work ethic, and willingness to grow earned back the trust of her colleagues and managers. Months later, she was promoted to head waitress for lunch service, a position that allowed her to mentor new staff, She used her own experience as a lesson, teaching them that professionalism meant keeping personal opinions separate from their work. Looking back, Jasmine realized that karma wasn't just about punishment, it was about growth. She had faced the consequences of her actions, but she had also been given a chance to redeem herself. The experience taught her that professionalism wasn't just a skill, it was a mindset. And as L'Etoile continued to thrive, serving guests from all walks of life, one thing became clear: excellence in fine dining had no political boundaries. What do you think? Should Jasmine have handled things differently? Was her suspension fair? Or do you believe she had a right to express her feelings at work? Let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear your thoughts. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and share the video to spark more discussions. And if you want more powerful stories like this, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.